Good morning, everyone. It is 10 o'clock and it is time for the next next episode of Midweek Motivation Live with me, your host, Patrick Lee. We're going to be talking about the ego today, the difference between ego and belief. How important is ego? Is it something we need to get under control? Today on Midweek Motivation Live, now on all major podcast platforms, we will be back to jump into that topic right after this. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you are doing well today. People already tuning in to watch the show. I know I say that every time because as soon as I go live, people are tuning in to watch the show. It's good to see everyone on here already today. Hey, Jason, my man. It's good to see you on here today. I hope you get something out of this topic today. We're going to be talking about ego, and someone may say, "Hold on, this is going to get wild here." It is well, Jason says, with my soul, my brother. Amen. Amen. It is well. And we were texting before the show went live, and he texted me that, and he said, "It is well." I said, "With my soul." It is well with my soul. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. Ego. Is ego a good thing? You know what I mean? Let me pull that back up. Get back to my banners. Is ego a good thing? What are you talking about, Patrick? Ego. I've been accused of having a big ego. Maybe some of you watching the show have been accused of having a big ego. We're going to talk about ego, the importance of a good ego, and what really is that. A lot of people misuse the word ego. Um, and have for years, and myself included, and I'm constantly learning to try to increase my word power, use better words, learn more words that can better describe the things I'm trying to say. But the one we're just going to use today is ego. It's what we have heard for years. I'm going to give you the definition of ego here shortly, and we're going to talk about this. I've been listening to a lot of people. I've been through a lot of things. Many of you may have seen some of my social media comments lately about some frustrations with the seasons that we are going through lately, and possibly explain a little bit about how ego has defined a generation, how ego may have defined your business, your relationships in the past, but really, how are we going to successfully use ego to help us become more successful in the future? Motivating you to success in every area of your life is the motto of the show. That's why we do this each and every week, to help you. And I believe this is an area where I know that I need to increase in proper usage of ego. And I think that it will help all of you as well. Is ego a good thing? And we're going to actually leave the answer to that question to the end of the show. Is ego a good thing? I have comments that are coming in, and I have beliefs of that would support the positive and the negative of the answers of that question. Yes or no? Is ego a good thing? And there are many valid points that many of you are going to bring up today. You're going to post them in the comments as you do each and every week. And I appreciate that. You help me become a more successful person as well. Together, we all achieve more. All of you that watch the show are on my team, and we do better. We grow to better together as we go forward. Need a drink of coffee here. This is a shameless plug for AMC Mortgage. Amanda McCampbell at AMC Mortgage, AMCMTG.com. If you need a mortgage lender, Amanda McCampbell at AMC Mortgage is a phenomenal one. There are many good lenders that watch the show that we do business with. Amanda is one of my favorites right now. I actually won this coffee cup in a competition we were having at an Ask the Appraiser event recently. We had a question and answer competition, and I won this coffee cup. I'm very happy about that. Drinking a little bit of a Black Rifle coffee this morning. Oh, and it is so good. So good. Black Rifle Coffee Company. Love their coffee. Hey, Pete, good to see you watching the show. Multiple people watching the show. Pete says ego can be confidence in who you are and what you do. Well, there's one definition. Absolutely. How do you define ego is actually the question on the screen right now. Good answer, Pete. That's how Pete answers that. Let's see what the dictionary says ego is. Why don't we? Ego, and this may surprise you if you go to the dictionary and look up the word ego. Ego means a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. A boost to my ego, having a good self-ego. All of the similar words and synonyms that go along with ego. You want to hear what they are? This is going to blow your doors back a little bit. Self-esteem, self-importance, but also self-worth, self-respect, self-confidence, and self-image are all synonyms and definitions, co-definitions, and co-uses of the word ego. Morning, Lisa. Love you. Good to see you watching as well. This is one of the things you have in very good control, Miss Lisa. Your ego is well in check, my friend. Good to see you watching the show. Lisa Mayfield, my favorite title agent, also watching the show today as Chicago Title. I'm a branded man. Everything I see, I'm sitting here. My notebook here is Chicago Title, and I recently got that from Lisa. Everything on my desk is branded by someone that we do business with. You know why? Because we support the people that support us. That's why. That's proper ego. You work with the people that want to work with you. So I have branded products all over my office from the people that I work with and that want to work with me. We keep ego in check. We help lift each other up. Not only is that self-worth when we talk about ego, it's the worth, the value, the image, the esteem, and the importance we give those around us. So that's the question. How do you define ego? Lisa and I, Amanda and I, Pete, Jason, a lot of you that watch the show, Ross, Cody and Gina, everyone that's watching and watches regularly, Terry, so many of you that watch the show and comment, Pastor Frank, Jordan. We talk about ego from time to time, and in private conversations, people will talk about other people's ego. I was having a conversation about a situation that I was in recently about a phone call I had received from someone who made some comments to me, and the phone call was a recruiting call. This person, I'm a team leader. I have over half a dozen, not quite a dozen agents that work for me that have joined the team, the Patrick Lee Group. And I've achieved a certain level of success over the last couple of years. And this last year, before they changed the rules, they moved the cheese, if you will, at the Realtor Association. Our team, a little over a year ago, had achieved, our production was in the top 1% of all of the agents in our real estate association. And this particular person that called me to recruit me, and here's where the ego comes out: the sense of self-worth and the sense of self-importance and self-esteem. And I had never took those numbers of the production we had achieved and broadcast them to say in a braggadocious way, hey, look at me, look how good we are, look how attractive I am and how smart I am to build this team that we can achieve such high numbers. But there were other people that were offended at the fact that as an agent in the position they were in, they were not going to be able to achieve the same levels of success that we had achieved. However, when you look at the mechanics of that and reverse engineer how that works, you put together a team, plan systems, decide to work together, all the things we teach on the show, you can achieve what your goals are. You can go after your goals and achieve them. So none of that was ever brought about or advertised, but this certain agent called and they knew pretty much had a pretty good idea of the success that we had had. But this agent called, runs his own company and wanted to recruit me. And in the course of the conversation, told me that I was a fairly decent middle of the road agent who had a certain amount of potential to reach some level of success in the future. And I was dumbfounded and I just hung up on him. And I was telling this to my other friend in the industry, and they just laughed and they said, "Can you imagine the ego?" Good morning, Larry. Good to see you watching the show as well. My buddy out on the West Coast. And that person messaged me. They texted me and said, "Hey, it looks like we got disconnected." And I said, "Oh, no, I disconnected us because I refused to allow someone to speak like that into my life. My self-esteem, my self-image, my sense of self-worth is higher than that kind of conversation. You know, we talk about this all the time. Your eyes are gates into your soul. Your mouth, as you speak, so it will be unto you. It goes into your ears. The things that we listen to affect who we are inside. And I just don't allow people to talk like that into my life. This is not a mentor. They're not a pastor. They're not a business coach. They're not in my top 5. As a matter of fact, they're not in my top 500, to be quite honest. They do not have the ability to speak those kind of things into my life. You're a decent middle of the road agent with a sense of potential to do better in the future. And that particular agent has never achieved the level of success with his entire, as a broker, than we have achieved as a team. Enough said about that. I know who I am, and it's my ego is healthy. My ego tells me who I am. My Lord tells me who I am. God's word tells me it is well with my soul, and I know who I am as a child of God and as a business owner here in Amarillo, Texas, and that's why I'm helping you here today on the show. How do you define ego? Put some comments here, drop them in the comments below, and tell me if maybe you have an unhealthy sense of ego or a definition of the word ego. There's nothing wrong with having an ego, and this actually comes from a writer in England that was talking about ego in some works that she wrote a couple of years ago in a psychological journal. And I read a lot of things, and I do a lot of research to come on here to share things with you. A lot of them God puts in my spirit. They come into my mind from things I've heard or experienced, because life experiences, as we share life experiences, we all get better together, right? But I also researched some of these things. And this particular writer said there is nothing wrong with having an ego. There's nothing wrong with feeling important. You just need to have proper regulation on your ego. The problems arise when the ego affects your decision making, your mood, or turns you into a victim or an underdog. Sometimes ego makes you feel superior to others in order to justify your behavior, but that is an unhealthy sense of ego. Well said. Problems arise when your ego affects your decision making. Has ego caused any of you to affect your decision making? Has it caused you to think more highly of yourself than you ought to, which is something we are cautioned about in God's word? We ought not to think more highly of ourselves than we should. Does that mean we should not think highly of ourselves? No. The word says we should not think more highly of ourselves than we should. That means we should think highly of ourselves, as long as we keep that in check, in balance, in a healthy level. So there is an importance to having ego, sense of value, sense of worth, sense of self-esteem. Absolutely, I believe that. And many of you do too. But the word ego gets a bad rap. And they say, well, that person is egotistical. Patrick, you're being egotistical because you just felt that you were better than that other person that called you, offering you an opportunity. And the fact of the matter behind that was I have a high enough sense of self-worth that I know who I am, that what that person was offering me was not an opportunity to better me. It was an opportunity for me to take my success and attach it to them so they could get the glory for the successes that I had achieved and heap that upon themselves, because that's the track record of that person's history. So there you go. So we do not have the ability to judge anyone's heart motive because we can't see the heart, only God does. However, we do have the ability to know who we are as a person. I teach you this on the show regularly. You need to have a strong sense of self-worth and belief in who you are, know who you are, and then stay true to that person, right? Be true to you, speak your truth, do the right thing, be who God created you to be. But also at the same time, as you know that, you do not allow these other things to come into your life, to be seeded into your life, or the enemy to come in and rob that, tarnish that, or seek to heap that upon themselves. Does that make sense? I hope I've gotten myself out of the way fast enough for me to get this word to you. And I was in, Jason knows, and I think I shared this recently. I was teaching at his conference in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and the session that I was teaching on business God's way, and it went rather lengthy, and I apologized at the end, and he told me, do not apologize. I took pages and pages of notes. You're dropping bombs. But I think I made the comment. I said, sometimes you just have to talk long enough to get yourself out of the way so the facts can start being exposed and revealed, and the truth can come out, and you can start sharing that with people. Do you know what I mean? Jason says it was fantastic. That's a great word. I like the word fantastic because it roots almost in the point of fantasy. It means it's so good, it's almost on the point of fantasy that it could be that good. That's a great report, Jason. I love that. A couple of words I have learned probably not to use as much lately is the word unbelievable. And how many of you ever use the word unbelievable too much? Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable that could happen. And that's something I was just listening to Matthew McConaughey talk with Ed Milet. They were talking about the word unbelievable. Anything that can happen is believable. If it just happened, it's believable. If someone achieved something, it's happened, it's believable. And we use this word unbelievable so flippantly and so over excessively. It's kind of funny. So I'm getting that one under control. But hey, we're talking about ego today. This is the word today. Maybe you have a misconstrued meaning or definition in your mind of the word ego. That person's egotistical. That person is an egomaniac. That person is an ego freak. They think so highly of themselves, I can't bear to speak to them. How many of you know someone like that? The ego, controlled by the reality principle, is what prevents you from acting on urges. Did you know that your ego is a good thing, in the fact that when your ego is in proper balance, you realize your place in the situation and you know not to overstep that or to take advantage of those around you? How many of you have thought of ego that way? Your ego tells you that I have a sense as a person. I have a sense and I know what is right and wrong. I know what is expected and unexpected. And I know that I need to act within the confines of who I have set myself out to be. Who you are in private, who you are and how you act when no one can see you or would be knowledgeable about how you acted in private, is who you really are. And when your ego is in balance and you know who you are, you do not act outside of those restraints. That's called self control. If you are out of balance in self control, you will allow an improper ego to tell you that you can get away with things and no one would know. That's a problem. Hello, Sal. Good to see you watching again. Awesome. Sal's a good guy. Sal's always watching the show, sends me messages, tells me all kinds of positive things. That's awesome. I love that. Thank you. Jason says, I've been accused many times of being highly egotistical. It's usually been from people who esteem themselves beyond correction. Boom. That's a powerful statement right there. When you are in a position in life, or you have a position in life where you have the ability or have been given the permission to correct someone and they refuse that, is that a problem? Absolutely. There are times in my job as a team leader, and I have some of those phone calls to make today where I find out things that have happened are out of balance in the way that we do business here, and I have to call people on that and remind them, not that they're in trouble, because we're all grown-ups, right? No one's really getting in trouble unless they're creating trouble for themselves. But there are times that we act out of the balance or out of the confines, the restraints, the margins, outside of the margins of how we define who we are and how we are supposed to act as adults. And when someone acts outside of that, our job is simply to correct them in the way that says, hey, listen, we need to bring that action back within the margins, right? We need to get the vehicle going down the road back within the lines of your lane and not be driving down someone else's lane. When you're driving in someone else's lane, you're going to have a wreck. It's just life. So that ego, controlled by this reality principle, is what prevents you from acting on those urges to get out of line. If you're craving chocolate, here's a good example for all of those of us that love chocolate. If you are craving chocolate, your ego will make you wait until you can go get your own chocolate, as opposed to taking someone else's chocolate when no one would know that you've taken their chocolate. You can see a can behind me, that little can right there next to the popcorn, next to the script book. These are all of the things that people have brought to the office. And yesterday, Chicago Title brought me this giant bag of popcorn for people to snack on in the afternoon. Everyone can have popcorn if they want. That can right there is a mixed can of chocolate covered nuts. And those are free for anyone to take, but I was craving chocolate, and I know there's some other people in the office that like chocolate as well. And I got the chocolates, and I was fixing to eat them, and I just turned around and I put them back in the can. I set the can on the desk. I'm like, no, those are for everyone to enjoy. I really don't need the chocolate, and it's there for everyone. And while I could have, and no one would have cared, my ego is not so far out of balance that I said, I'm going to consume that upon myself. I would rather allow everyone else to enjoy those things. Thank you, Saritha. Awesome. Constructive correction. Absolutely. We never turn around and correct people. Well, there are times that we correct people that may not be constructive, but that would be when we start talking about criticism. But there are times that we're correcting a child that's doing dangerous activity, and that's different. When we're grown up adults, it needs to be, yes, constructive criticism or constructive correction. And we have talked about that in the past, doing the Oreo cookie method of the sweet on one side, and then you talk about what's going on in the middle, and then you finish off with the other side. And that's how you handle some people like that. But anyway, if you're craving chocolate, that ego could make you wait until you get your own chocolate instead of snatching the chocolate away from something someone else might want or enjoy. So that's a good method of using ego. And let's talk about this. We've got a couple of minutes left. I want to get into this last topic, and that is how ego can reallocate power. And this is something, as I was researching this, that came to me kind of as a shock, and I didn't really look at ego this way. And it opened my mind's eye, and I thought, hey, this is interesting. I think I should probably add this into the content on the show to share with you as well. We've talked about the ego, what your ego is, the synonyms of ego, positives and negatives of the ego. Another one of the descriptive sentences about ego: your ego is your conscious mind, the part of your identity that you consider yourself. It's what we were just talking about: who you are, your sense of self-worth, being true to you. Um, if you say someone has a big ego, then you're actually saying two things. Depending on your meaning, you're actually saying that person has a huge sense of self, which can be a good thing. They know who they are and they operate within those confines. Or you're saying that person has an out of balance sense of themselves and they think way more highly of themselves than they should, given their position in life. So that can go and be a constructive or destructive means of speaking to that other person. So what does this reallocation of power mean when we're talking about this, the ego? Well, ego is never going to go away completely. Recognize, and we don't want it to, recognizing it rec I need more coffee. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, while ego is never going to go away completely, and we don't want it to because of its importance, recognizing it is for what it is will automatically take the power of an overactive ego away. So when we recognize that someone is operating in an improper sense of self-worth or self-esteem, an overly unbalanced ego, here are a few sure tell signs of that. When ego is, and these, some of these signs may surprise you. Reallocating the power of ego is what we're talking about right now here in this final topic. Number one, fear. If your inner voice is speaking in a fearful or anxious way, you can bet that's a sign of an out of balance ego. Intuition does not come from a place of fear. Intuition comes from a sense of self-worth, self-esteem, and knowledge. Okay? Your intuition does not come, good intuition does not come from a place of fear. So if you're feeling overly fearful, you're allowing your ego to be out of balance. Scarcity mindset. Wow, this is a big one. We talk about this on the show a lot. When you feel insecure or lacking, you have a scarcity mindset. It's driven by an out of balance ego. Your intuition should be about abundance, confidence, and fulfillment. I have shared with you multiple times. I was a professional baker off and on for the better of 15 years and part-time almost 20 years in different stages of my careers of life. And anytime someone tells me, and it's a common statement in business, is everyone wants their piece of the pie. And the fear comes in when someone says they're getting a bigger piece of pie than me. That's not fair. That's an out of balanced ego. When you want your children, and this is a great example, when it comes down to the piece of pie, and someone is afraid that the other sibling or the brother or sister is going to get more, there's only a certain amount of pie or cake. The smart parent says, okay, the person that's fearful, you can turn around and they say, I want to cut the cake. I want to cut the pie. And you know that person is going to give themselves a bigger piece because there's a limited amount and they want more. The ego is out of balance. So you go ahead and let that person cut the piece. You say, okay, I'm going to let you divide the pie. Okay. And so you get to divide the pie, and your brother or sister doesn't get a choice in how you cut it. And the big smile comes on their face. That's awesome. I get to cut myself a big piece of pie. But on the flip side, you turn around and say, but on the flip side of that now is your brother or sister gets to choose which piece they get. See what I did there? So this person with the big ego gets to cut the pie. They're going to cut the pie bigger because they think they're going to get a bigger piece for themselves. But you take the other half of that and say, but the other person now gets to choose which piece they get. So if you cut the pie bigger, hoping to on one side, hoping to get a bigger piece, the other sibling, brother, sister, partner, realtor, preacher, friend has the ability to choose their piece. They have the ability to choose the bigger piece. So you automatically control the person with the out of balance ego into cutting. At that point, they're going to cut the pie right down the middle, right? Because they want to make sure that other person doesn't get a bigger piece. That's the mindset many people, all the way from children to senior citizens, operate in, and it's out of balance. That's what I'm trying to tell you today. So as a baker, I've adopted this mindset years ago. When someone says so and so is getting more pie, I'm a baker. I just go out and make more pie. A good baker bakes more pie. If you're a preacher, you go out and witness to more people. If someone is taking sheep from your flock, right? Maybe those people weren't meant to be with you. And you just go out and witness to more people. Share the gospel with more people in the street that don't know Jesus, because they are going to grow your flock, right? If you're a business person and someone is outselling you, they're taking more of the pie. You just have to go out and do more business. If someone's getting more real estate deals, you know what it tells me? My relationship skills are lacking and I need to increase in those. I need to make more phone calls. I need to go to more events. I need to touch base with more of my friends and clients and people in my sphere to let them know I'm still here for them. I love them. I want to help them. Get your ego in check. If you start thinking more highly of yourself than you ought to, you start thinking the phone needs to ring, people coming after me. My phone needs to be ringing. And the truth of the matter is, you need to be doing more dialing. You need to be doing more texting. You need to be doing more witnessing, more writing, more working, more exercising, more pounding the pavement. If you want to be back in balance, you need to do more work to get you in balance. Get out of a scarcity mindset. And then on to change. The next thing that can tell you you're out of balance a little bit is change, fluctuating ideas, changing your viewpoints regularly, inconsistent self-talk. These are characteristics of out of balance ego. And your good intuition is steady. Out of balance ego removes that. Your ego, if your ego is also affected by external influences. Your ego tries to boost itself up by amassing more on an external level, but intuition, self-esteem, and self-worth tells you that you need nothing more. And that, my friends, is divine. Learning to be happy in the middle of what you have is going to take away the power of an out of balance ego to tell you that on the outside you continuously need to be amassing more. Richie says, well said. Larry says, I love it. Very good. Thank you, people. I love the comments. Keep them coming. And then next, the final two on here, indicators that you need to reallocate the power of the ego, is justification. Ego backs up its decisions with a laundry list of reasons why it's right or why it should feel as big as it feels, why you should have more. Wow, let's just cut to the chase. every one of the conversations I have where someone feels like they were wronged or someone was attacked because of something they have done, they always come back and spin the conversation to be more in their benefit. I did the right thing, right? Here are the things that I did. You know me. You know I'm a better person than this. You know I wouldn't make this kind of a mistake. And I did what I did because of this, this, and this. An out of balance ego always seeks to justify justification of what I have done, justification of why I took that chocolate in private, justification of why I dished myself out that bigger piece of the pie. And a good balanced ego, which is operating in good intuition, gives you one simple answer: no explanation needed. Many times, someone will come to me and want to explain the decision they made, and I just say, "Hey, you did the right thing. You do not have to defend yourself to me. I know you. I know your track record. I love you, and I trust you. No justification needed. It's all good." Sometimes a person makes a mistake that ego caused them to make, and all they say is, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry." And you say, "Forgiven. It's all good. I know you and your track record. You're a good person. I know we all make mistakes, and it's over with, forgiven, and done." No one needs to justify their wrongdoing when their ego is in check. And then finally, judgment. If your inner voice speaks in judgment or constant comparison to others, that's definitely ego. And that is something that needs to be in check. Constantly judging or comparing. You know the old statement: when you have one finger pointing at someone else, you have three more pointing back at you. And this one is, I'm sure we can all relate that we get caught up from time to time in the judgment or comparison of others. And I'm going to come back to the "is ego a good thing" question here and answer it. I believe that ego is definitely a good thing. And here's why. If we do not have a good ego, which is our sense of self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, then we will have very little cause emotionally, psychologically, or spiritually to go out and do good. And I believe that doing good is one of the most important things that we are called to do. We are to love God and we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. Of all of the commandments Jesus taught us in the Bible, loving your neighbor is probably higher than all the rest. I think that's what he said, right? There are many things that we're called to do, but as a human, as a good person, I believe that it's important for us to be good men and women. And that means always doing the right thing, but also doing the right thing in service of others. And without a proper ego, there's very little motivation for us to go out and do good. If there is no thanks for a job well done, very quickly you will stop doing good things. If there's no sense of gratitude when someone thanks you for providing a service to them, you will have less and less motivation to continue providing those services to them. So an ego in proper balance is a good thing. We crave, and we earn gratification from others. The good feeling that comes when someone thanks you, when someone shares gratitude back with you for something you've done, something you've said to them, the things you have poured into their life, maybe the blessing you have been to them, the good job that you did for them. When that comes back to you, it's a good thing, and it's our motivator for us to continue to go out and do more of the same. If you go and do things with a motivation of the money, of "I'm just doing this because it's my job," then you're out of balance. And that ego actually becomes suppressed, and you're not living a fulfilled, successful life. You're just doing it for the paycheck. You're just doing it because you feel like it's expected of you. When you are doing things properly and in the right spirit, that joy that comes from a job well done, that's all part of having a balanced ego. Knowing who you are and operating in the spirit of who you are. And without a little bit of ego, what's our motivator? Do we not do anything for the good feeling that comes from doing a good deed? Absolutely not. Thank you, Pastor Frank. Healthy motivation in balance. That's the name of the game today here on Midweek Motivation Live. Hey guys, I love spending time with you every Wednesday morning. We have a couple of more great guests that are going to be coming up on the show very soon. I just booked another guest yesterday, and you're going to be very excited to hear from her in a couple of weeks. And we have many more on the way. I thank you that you come back and watch me each and every week. Share the show. Thank you. Spot on, buddy. I love good comment, bud. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it. Like, love, and share the show with your family and friends. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button there and click on the bell to get notifications when we upload more to YouTube. That's helping me. My main goal this year is helping to grow the YouTube channel. That's one area that is not as growing as quickly as I would like for that to happen. You can help me. Everyone go to YouTube and go to just look me up, Midweek Motivation Live or Patrick Lee channel, and you can see all of the videos uploaded there as well. Click on that. And then, of course, if you will give me a review on your Apple Music or Stitcher, Spotify, if you're happen to watch the show there. Reviews on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram are also great ways that you can help me out. I sure appreciate it. Bonus tip for the show: try to be the person your ego has you built up to be. If your ego's in check, you're going to be right on track. I appreciate it. Until next time, all the comments are coming in. Love the show. Brofessor, hugs to you. Thanks. Every good word for the day. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jackie, Saritha, all of y'all that have commented. Until next time, this has been Patrick Lee with Midweek Motivation Live saying, hey, courage begins at the end of your comfort zone. Go out there and get uncomfortable and courageous today. Bye-bye.